I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the Power Platform Show. Thanks for joining me today. I hope today's guest inspires and educates you on the possibilities of the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, let's get on with the show. In this episode, we'll be focusing on running hackathons by somebody who has run many successful hackathons in the far north of the world, otherwise known as Scandinavia. Are you in Scandinavia?
Yeah.
Is Scandinavia still a thing?
Yeah.
It is,
very
right?
much
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Okay, it's still a thing. Okay. Today's guest is from Norway. She works at Itera as a low-code practice lead. She's been on this podcast before. She's a public speaker and involved in events around the Power Platform, both nationally and internationally. She's a blogger, active community contributor, and is part of the Portal's Zero to Hero League. You can find links to her bio in the show notes, of course. Welcome to the show, Ulrikke.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so happy to be here.
Good to have you on the show back again, this time, of course, to talk about running hackathons. Before we kick off, because, I found out all about your family and everything last time we chatted, I would like you to tell us about the amazing new podcast you are now co-hosting.
Oh, thank you for that opportunity, Mark. So, long story short, are you familiar with the OC podcast by Lisa Crosby and Megan Walker, right? So I used to listen to that while running, and it was my, special time of the week where I would just catch up on everything. I'm not a big newsletter reader. So for me, that was the only, the prime source of what's new. And then I would have that backlog in my mind and go back to the office and read more about it. So when they stopped doing their podcast, it was, I found that I didn't get that, that weekly catch up anymore. And I wanted someone to read. So we have those amazing two newsletters, the Power Platform Weekly and the Power Platform Developer Weekly. I wanted someone to read those in audio mode so that I could listen to it. That was what I wanted. We talked about it in the communities, we talked about with a lot of other people, and everyone had the same, someone should actually do that. And no one did. And Nick and I met up at the Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge Hackathon that we'll talk about later this February. And you know what it's like? You go to the bar, you have a few drinks, and you decide to start a podcast. And it's a very good idea at the time, but we found that it was still as a good of idea. Then in the next morning, it was still a good idea. So then we decided, you know what? Let's do it. If the community is ready and people want it, and no one's doing it, why not us? And Nick, of course, from a couple of other podcasts, has a lot of experience. So it was very quick for him to put this together. And actually, I just piggybacked on him and his experience, actually. And I'm just, so he's the prime runner of this. But we did this together. We were a team, and this is our podcast. And we want to be a podcast where you can get your the top news from the last 2 weeks. So we're a bi-weekly thing. We read through the newsletters, and we follow the community and to pick out the most important things from the last 2 weeks. So it's a way to catch up on all the new stuff that's coming out.
Awesome. We will make sure we put in the show notes for this episode links to the podcast. So if you want a new podcast to subscribe to, go check this out. Now, today's discussion, of course, is around hackathons, and it's a subject that I'm very much interested in. And the reason I'm interested in it is I see that whenever hackathons are run, people's learning level goes to, increases considerably. It's like an opportunity for people to try things that they don't get to do in their normal day job, and really look at bleeding edge technologies in some situations and apply them, and then, of course, spark off whole new ideas. Now, tell us about the Arctic Challenge and how long has it been running? Give me some stats of it, how it came about, and so you can set the context for those listening that this wasn't just a single event that was run last year. Tell us about the story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this, in 2024, which is the next one in February, will be the 14th time that we run this. It started as a community thing. A couple of guys doing from the SharePoint community back in the day in Norway. SharePoint community in Norway has always been great, very tight community. They wanted to have exactly what you're pointing to. Kind of give me just a couple of days to get my head around these new features. There's so much new stuff coming. I want to be able to play with it, explore it, see where it can do, see the boundaries of what it can do without having that pressure of billing hours and project managers and everything. Just let me play with this. So they took time out of their day job and they took some personal time, got together at a hotel at Gardermoen, the national airport in Norway, at a hotel there, very hackathon style, just dove in. And they did that for a couple of years and it grew very fast. It became something for the whole community in SharePoint in Norway. And then, as most of you probably know, SharePoint is not really what it was back in the day. It's not that you don't customize it anymore. And the Power Platform was introduced. And the communities kind of merged. And a lot of people from SharePoint side joined the Power Platform movement. And so it was very natural for us. So those of us in the committee as well, being the organizer, we moved into the Power Platform. So it's very natural for us to transition the whole thing into being a full Microsoft stack kind of thing, also including the Power Platform. And now also, if you want to, you could actually bring in Amazon. You can bring in whatever you like in terms of technology. We've had Raspberry Pis and IoT devices, and we've hacked Teslas. There's no limit really, but we want to scope it so that it's easier to get started. So we kind of scope it in the Power Platform scope, but if you want to use something else, you're free to do that if you like. So this year, just to put it in perspective, we had 50 participants across 10 different teams. We said that it's a limit of 5 people per team. And a couple of companies have had double teams. So you would have one company, 2 teams competing, of course, internally against each other. Very, very nice competitive edge there. And so traditionally, it's been the consultant companies that, assign a team, send their team to battle it out because it's a competition as well as a hackathon. But now, actually, the last couple of years, we've seen big customers that have their own Power Platform team. They also bring teams in. And that is, of course, because we have a couple of guys in the committee that moved from the consultant world into the customer side of things at the IT organization. And they advertise for this internally and they bring a team. So it's we're still relying on the people knowing people and having experience from the hackathon. It's an amazing. So I've built my whole network. It comes from AC/DC, as we call it short. I know, it's a band as well. Don't get me started. But so my whole professional networks comes from those those events. It's magic because we make a point of the event being at a hotel so remote that no one would ever think to go to the city center. If you want to grab a drink, the bar would open any time of day, and then so everyone's there. And that creates an intimate sphere, an intimate culture where you don't go and everyone's together. It's a community feeling that I don't get anywhere else, and that creates a special atmosphere. That is what I go to.
Are you having people attend now from outside Norway?
Yeah, we've had Swedish competitors for a couple of years now. And every time, because another important thing that we do and that we've always done is we bring out big headliner people as judges. So this is a competition. We have between 4 to 6 judges each year. That is very popular community people, MVPs, Microsoft employees, people that are important to these competitors. So that is also one of the selling points. Not only do you get days off of your day job to experience to play with the new stuff, but also you get exclusive access to 5 prime community, the experts in their fields. So then we would make sure that the judges across the board would, cover all the bits and pieces. You would have one Azure DevOps person, you would have a hardcore developer, you have a Power Platform, a Flow, Logic Apps expert. You would have all these different disciplines. And then, so if you have a problem in your organization, you would bring it in and you would have the expert to ask. And that's really one of the key selling points here as well, making it really important as well to bridge and to learn and yeah.
I like it. Let's talk a bit about the mechanics of running an event like this that's obviously been running for a long time. First of all, is there a website people can go and check out to see what's happened in the past, photos, that type of thing?
Yeah, so our website is changing every year because we have different themes every year. But yeah, sure, you can get a couple of images off of there. We have a blog so we'll probably get back to that, but it's a big part of the competition and the experience is a blog where every team will blog. That's where we can go to see previous stuff. And then we have 2 SharePoint sites. The one from the SharePoint version and then now for the platform version, where you can actually go and see pictures as well. So, yep.
Awesome. So if you can provide the URLs to those, we'll put those in the show notes as well. Tell me about the logistics to running an event like this, because I know that you're now key to running the event. How far out do you start planning the next event? What are things that make the event a big draw card? You mentioned the word theme before, and I know you weren't meaning a website theme. Tell me about what are all the logistics that you think about when you put on an event like this?
Very good question. And by now, we would want this to run itself pretty much because it's a lot of recurring things. But so from the first thing that we do, and this starts now. So the last event was in February and we're now in April. We start now looking for new judges. That is the first thing that we do because that is the drawing, right? So that's the buy-in. That's a big advertising experience, He's coming and she's coming and this is so cool. So that's the first thing that we do. We set the date for the next event and we set the theme. And so the theme has been, so let's talk about that for just a short second. We've had The Matrix, we've had Star Wars, we've had Vikings, Pirates of the Caribbean, we've had, can't remember, Marvel, you name it, all the geeky stuff has been the theming. And it's game because we're all geeks, right? We're all nerds. Yeah. So we love those kind of things. But it's also in terms of marketing and branding and that kind of thing as well. It gives you that opportunity to have a more centered theme around your solution. So when we had Star Wars, of course, Darth Vader always had to have that dashboard, and you have the personas, and you have the color schemes and everything. That it brings another layer or level to each competition. And nerds will be nerds. You will have Darth Vader in the room, of course, and you would have, you can get points for being creative on your setup. There would be mascots, and people would dress up, and we create a lot of fun around it. I really love it. And then, of course, in all the gadgets and all the giveaways is also branded like that on the theme.
If you get to choose 2024's theme, what are you going to choose?
Okay, so a little secret for all of you listening. This year, we didn't decide on a theme. So this is new for 2024. We're going to have a voting kind of thing. So in the committee, we've named 4 different themes, and we'll post a poll where people can vote for whatever theme they want. Now, I'm not here to persuade anyone, but it's kind of 3 kind of dull, all right themes. And there's one kick-ass theme that it's my idea and I really like it. And I hope that's the winner. And that's My Little Pony.
My Little Pony.
Yeah.
It's got to be the winner, right? It's got to be the winner.
Of course. Can you imagine you going into a room, 50 adult men, because it's predominantly men, dressed up as unicorns and the My Little Pony theme, and I
love it. I love it.
It's a dream. I hope my dream comes true.
If you're listening to this podcast, there's going to be a link to where you can vote on that theme. And there's only one option on that link that you can select. It's My Little Ponies. tell me about, you talked about prizes. You have prizes, giveaways, that type of thing. What do you give them away for? What do people do to earn a prize?
Yeah, so first of all, you get a goodie bag when you walk in through the door. It's snacks and drinks and a couple of giveaways in there as well, stickers, and you know. So sometimes you have when I'm out, small story, but whenever I, in the winter when you have to, you have the hat on. That is usually from AC/DC. I have a scarf. It's usually AC/DC. I have a jacket with AC/DC on, mittens, everything. A lot of Norwegian warm giveaways, right? So that is always one thing. You get free drinks and you eat throughout on the event. We cover all of that, and then we have a couple of different opportunities to earn prizes. So throughout those 3 days, we suddenly, out of the blue, there's a head-to-head competition. One of the judges has a really difficult problem that all the teams can go for if they want, and there's points to be earned, and there's a prize at the end. So the team that wins, it's the first one to solve it wins, kind of thing. And the judge has to approve that winner. The team get the points and the person get the prize. And that can be everything from, huge duffel bags with a lot of stuff in there, or it could be Lego sets. It could be anything. And then, so at the end of the competition, we announce 3 winners, third, second, and first place, and they all get Lego sets. So, and then there's also 4 awards being Killer App, Best User Experience, Best Business Value, and then fourth one that I can't remember. Last time I won the Usability or User Experience Award, and that's also a Lego set kind of thing. So it's a lot of prizes to be had, a lot of Lego going around. Very cool.
How is everything funded?
It used to be that we had sponsors. So Microsoft has been a primary sponsor for this over the years. Now we've seen recent years that it's harder to get sponsors for this. It used to be a community event where the people that got together and planned this, or in the committee, they would have their own company sponsor it. So now, recent years, we're relying more on the attendance fee. So we think it's very pricey, but when we compare what you get with a price for attending other conferences, for instance, it's not really that much. So, so we're relying more and more on that, actually. And then the giveaways, usually that's a part of the sponsoring as well. If we have companies sponsoring, that would be more the giveaways kind of thing.
And so you said you stay in a hotel. Is that one of the things, is to make sure that everybody, is it like over a weekend or over a few days? How does that work? Because obviously you want to keep everybody together so you get the camaraderie and things like that.
Yeah, that's one of the keys to the success of this event, and what differentiate this from other events as well. We take Thursday and Friday off. So our employees will give us Thursday, Friday, and then you take Saturday as your own time. So the event starts on Thursday morning at 9:00, and then we deliver on Saturday at 4:00 in the afternoon. We clean out the room. We do demo presentations. You get to sleep or run or eat or wherever you need. And then there's a final award dinner ceremony at Saturday night. And you stay over till Sunday morning, and then everyone's either throwing up or too tired or drive home to their families. And usually actually, so Mother's Day in Norway, or I don't know if that's an international thing.
Yes, it is everywhere.
Always hits that Sunday is always Mother's Day. So everyone's, driving home so tired after, 3 days of hacking and buying flowers on the gas station on the way home. Yeah.
If you were to distill down, what are the keys to success of running a hackathon like this? What are they? What do you got to get right as an organizer?
You got to get the people right. So for us, the judges is the key, right? So you have to have those experts in the room, and dedication. So the people participating here, they know they can't have meetings. They cannot go to the city center for something. They need to stay there the whole time, because that is what is it's the bubble. And if you burst the bubble, then and you're done. It's keeping that bubble together. And that's why the hotel is always remote. It's covered, it's buried in snow. You can't go anywhere. No one wants to go anywhere. And it creates that amazing bubble. And yes, we're competing. Yes, it's a competition, but we help each other. It's community, camaraderie. And also what I find amazing, and it's been a challenge. So I just, last year I moved companies. I switched, I have a new employer now. They're not used to this. So I will bring in people from competing consultant companies in the customer meetings. And my manager is like, what do you do? Stop. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's no problem. We're colleagues from another mother, right? So it's the spirit leaks into our daily work as well. If I need anything, if I'm stuck on a custom connector, I'll call Ahmad directly and he'll answer, because he's always helping me. And if he has any problem with prior pages, he'll just call me directly and I'll help him. I don't matter if it's a customer problem or if it's an internal problem, I'll help him out. And I think that is so valuable, and it's lifting each other up. That's community spirit through and through. So this will always be first a community event, and second. So, and we've had people saying it's a recruitment area. So people will look at the competition and say, so we've seen so many examples of people being recruited at that event. So, and we've had also companies saying we don't dare to send our employees there because we know that they'll get recruited. And our answer is, well, if you're scared of your employees being recruited at that event, maybe you should up your game. If that's your fear, then sure. Keep them, lock them in and see how long they'll stay, right? So it's, And we've also seen we're also seeing, because we when we get to the hotel, they we need a lot of internet, right? So they'll plug us all up and it'll set everything up. And then after a couple of years at the same hotel, we got to know the guy that does that for us every year. And he says, you'd be surprised to see how many people come to us and say, excuse me, sir, can we book a hackathon like the one that they have in February for our internal company? So they've had to replicate that experience for other companies, big companies that have internal hackathons, and they want the AC/DC experience. Isn't that fantastic? I love it.
Tell me about outcomes. Like, over that time, what have been the kind of highlights that you've seen from the events? Obviously, recruitment was part of it. You're seeing who the top talent is in Norway at any time in this space. What else?
Easy. So last year, we had a company coming in, I think they brought a kind of a customer, something they wanted to create for a customer. They brought a problem into the hackathon. They created a solution that was, it's a hackathon, so it's all, almost keeping together. When they got back to the office after the hackathon, they finalized it, took a couple of hours out, made it production ready, brought it into a couple of customer meetings to show it off, to demo it. And they got new customers coming in, new work coming in based on what they did at AC/DC. So first of all, they sold it to the customer that had the problem in the first place, realized, oh, shoot, this is something that many of our customers have struggled with, sold it to them, actually acquired new customers because of that idea, and built on it and delivered it across the board, and actually financed 5 people going into this year's event.
Wow.
And so a pressure on them this year to do it even better, right? So we're very excited to see how it goes with them this year as well. And I think that is also, so for me, this year is all about AI, of course, and ChatGPT and everything. And I was so busy before Christmas. So when the news hit in November, December last year, I didn't have time to dive into it. And I knew AC/DC is coming. I'm going to have those 3 days to dive into it. So I'll just wait. I'll put it on the shelf and I'll pick it up once I get there. And we did something. We created so many cool stuff with it and dived really into it. So much so during those 3 days that I'm on the task force in ITERA, doing policy work with around AI and ChatGPT at Itera globally today.
Yeah.
So it's that emergent, it's that collective problem solving. It's drawing on everyone's experience and everyone's perspective, and it's developers and low coders and user experience people coming together, and that is where the magic happens. In my world, I'm not a trained developer by education. I've been sitting next to developers for 15 years. That's how I learned all the things that I know, and it's small bits and pieces that don't really attach in the start, but then once I build out all those little nibbits of knowledge, and now I see 15 years in my career, it's all just coming together perfectly, and it's all learning by doing, and yeah, I love it.
Very cool. Tell me, are there any gotchas? Is there any kind of, over that time, has there been any kind of like, oh fuck kind of scenarios that you've come across that have happened at an event or something, that rules were interpreted differently, people weren't happy with the judge's decision, anything like that's gone down?
A lot. And that comes down to the people as well. So we've had some judges that have taken over the whole event, suddenly throwing in points that are not there, making decisions over our heads, because, we're 10 people in the committee now, I think, and all of us want to participate. So once the event is running, we're participants. So all of a sudden, Yep. So then it's the judges actually that run the whole thing once we get there. And then some of them have taken on a little too much power and kind of got to, I don't know what you say. In Norway, we say warm in our shirt. They warm up and they think it's their event and they run with it. So that has happened, and we've had a lot of complaints, and the judging as well, the points, it's hard to get that perfect. So I think it's evolved. So over the last 10 years, we've always made changes to the point system and how we judge things and how we give points. I think last year, and we talked about it during the event as well, was probably the best we've had in terms of points and ruling and judging. So kind of getting to that point where the point system is almost perfect. It will never be perfect, but it's fair. The right team won. And that's good. But in the end of the day, this is something that we do for free on our free time. We love technology. We love hacking. It's fun. It's community. It's hackathon. It's competition. And we try to remind people as well, have fun, relax. It's all games, just go with it. But, you always have those people that take it a bit too seriously and get a bit too, but that's fine. It's all right.
Is the judging criteria always the same for each event? Is it pretty much the same? Like if you attended last year, you could expect a similar type judging criteria point system, or are you always tweaking it and changing it year on year?
So up to this point, we've tweaked it and changed it a little bit each year based on the feedback that we've gotten. But then this year, saying that, I think this will be the first year that we're not doing anything. So, and then of course, need to remember, we had a year where we did it virtually. So we had a digital one during COVID. Yep. And so that also changed up a couple of things, stirred up a couple of new requirements that we brought into the in-person version. And then, so it's continuously evolving. But I think now it's first time that I can actually say that if you were attending 2023, then 24 will be much of the same experience. Absolutely.
I've been involved in hackathons where there might be a hack for good or a hack for education or a hack for healthcare. In what the teams come together, do they choose what they're going to hack on? So like they can do some pre-planning of what they're thinking about doing, or is it a kind of thing that happens on the day, it's kind of drawn out of a hat and this is the thing that you're doing, so it's a surprise to everybody? How does that work?
Yeah, so the experienced teams, they will know what they're doing going into this. But we do encourage teams to not do any real work. So plan. Yeah, you can have meetings, you can plan what you're doing, you can brainstorm and have good ideas, but don't do anything more in advance because that takes kind of the fun out of it for everyone else. So provision your tenant, do those kinds of things that you don't have to wait for that portal to provision. That's fine, but keep it to a minimum. So what we do in the morning on Thursday morning, we have an introduction, we have a keynote, and then every team comes up on stage to say, hi, we're from this company, this is our names, this is what we do, and we think we're gonna make, Darth Vader's dashboard. We're gonna connect to this and this API. We're gonna join some weather, and this is what we think we're gonna do. And we film it, of course, and we have the PowerPoint slide that they make. And by the end of the 3 days, they created something completely different. No weather, no dashboard, that's what happens. And that's a bit of the fun as well, to see that gap. And also we have we have badges. So we have categories, first of all. That's, every day we see, we have a leaderboard that shows all the teams and how they're doing in terms of points within all the categories. But we also have badges that give points. So for instance, I talked about the community spirit. If you dress up, if you do some fun stuff, if you help other teams, that's points you can get. And also you can hunt for best user experience, or we have a dash it out for dashboards, etc. Right. And so that is where the blog comes in. So if you created something cool, created a dashboard, finalized your dashboard, you would create a blog post writing how you did it, what it is going, showing it off, and you claim badges for it to get points. And we actually have physical badges that you can attach to your key card or the badge around your neck. And by the end of that those huge so in Norway,
I know what you mean.
That's really, really cool. So then by the end of 3 days, you're wearing that heavy thing around your neck as a badge of honor, because that's all the points that you've gotten, right? And so that's a big part of it as well. And then, of course, so we have early delivery and show and tell are two different badges that you'll get the first day. So early delivery is submitting a blog post, showing off what you're going to do by, I think, by lunch. So that's really a short time. And then show and tell is a blog post showing off what you think you're going to make. So that's the plan. That's the idea. That's a blog post as well. So that's points in that for him as well. But then other than that, you can do whatever you want. Do whatever you like.
Do you see success patterns of teams that consistently do well? And what I'm thinking of here is that, as consultants, we know how projects run. We know that there needs to be somebody that's keeping track. Are we on track? Are we delivering on what we're committing to? Managing scope creep, that type of thing. Running out of time, by deadline to do the presentation, to get to ship something, by that deadline date. Do you see people like somebody puts an architect's hat on, people, developers, user experience designers, change management, do you see those components come into play at this type of event, or is it pretty much the worst case scenario, like in a company where people just start building shit and nobody knows where they're going?
Yeah, that's a very good point that you're making. The most successful teams are the most diverse teams, first of all. So now there's only allowed to be 5 people in a team. So you need to build that team very carefully. And those teams that are the most diverse and where people overlap a little bit, those are the most successful ones, because they talk the same language and they can translate between each other. And then you have one of those 5 people being not necessarily a manager, but someone who has that personality that, brings a team together and, set a path and people will follow. So those teams are also very successful, I think. And I also wanted to mention something else. So historically, with my old employer, we had this as an onboarding opportunity. And that was also before you could only be 5 people in a team. We had one year, I think we were 11 people on a team. But then we used that as an opportunity. Anyone that would join us in the developer department during the year would automatically be signed up. They would have first pick if they wanted to go or not. Because it's such an amazing opportunity to get to know someone. And you know what it's like. People coming into your workplace and it's in your department and say, yeah, what do you know? Yeah, I'm a business application consultant. And you don't know. They know a lot of other stuff that they're not saying. It's not on their competency card. It's not on their CV, but they know it somehow. And that comes out at a hackathon like this, because suddenly you'll have someone who's like, yeah, I know how to do this. Yes, of course I know how to do that. And you'll get to know each other professionally at a completely different level. It blows my mind every time. I love that. And
so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year as well, we had from Itera, I brought with me an architect that has never seen Power Platform. So first day, we're out, we've had the keynote presentation, everything, grabbing coffee. And he's like, so Power Platform, is that like in the browser? Is it a desktop application? What is it? And I'm looking at him like, dude, you're going to be here for 3 days hacking on the Platform. Wow, we have a way to go. And by the end of those 3 days, he was building flow like a pro. He had built a canvas. He had a dashboard up and running. It was amazing to see. And, just in Dataverse, creating the data model, I was so proud. It was so fun to watch.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you feel like, this you should be thinking about? Because what I'm hoping is that people that listen to this in their own countries will think about, this is a community activity I could kick off, or I could, I could bring the various business, like that whole competition element amongst the consulting partners within a city or a geography, or, and even that concept of having, end user customers that have their own teams of folks come and be involved. And because, what would you pay for 3-4 days intense training, right? It would be expensive for an employer to pay for that. And what you're getting here is this real practical hands-on type of training experience. Yes, it's not like a book smart type thing. It's an actual deep dive hands-on experience. Any other recommendations and things that you would say to the audience?
Just do it. Because I think after the pandemic and everything, we're so ready to be hands-on. We're so ready to get our hands dirty and get to know people. And I see this popping up so much these days. I think it's just do it and bring, on the top of your mind, the 5 people around you that are tactile learners, right? People that like to pull things apart and put it back together. And just if all those 5 people bring in a couple of other guys, and then you have 5-6 teams, and then just do it once and see what it is, because that is that, and then you're off. I think that's the way to go. And I see customers as well having internal hackathons that they allocate 1 day. I don't think that's enough, because I know when you're new to this, I see that in the new teams, they dedicate 3 days, and by the end of those 3 days, they're like, oh, I wish I knew all of this the first time. Next year, we're gonna kick some ass. If I'm allowed to say that, but I know. So I think just do it. Get some experience, and then do it better next year, and it will grow, and it will be fantastic for everyone involved. I know it will. And this is the highlight of my year, and I'm so thankful for so many things. Goes back to this hackathon and this amazing community, and you'll make friends for life, and you'll learn so many new cool stuff. And this is also, you do, your podcast is about MVPs. This is how I met all the fantastic MVPs that I know today. This is how it started for me 10 years ago. It's very powerful. It's very cool. And it doesn't take that much effort when you're multiple people putting it on. If the committee is diverse and the people are committed, just make the effort that one time and you'll love it.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you'd like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn. If you want to be a supporter of the show, please check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Stay safe out there and shoot for the stars.